It's me, John D. Villarreal, joined by Paul Villarreal today. Newstalk 1040 AM is the station, and the John D. Villarreal Show is the show. And we're about to join the air right now. Stand by for station to go live.
Following broadcast is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Genesis Communications, its management, staff, or advertisers. Welcome to the John Villarreal Show. Now, here's John.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, and wow, what a week. Unbelievable. This is the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM live on LinkedIn. Well, later, we're going to repost on LinkedIn. We're having some issues with X. We will repost on both of those, live on Rumble, live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and of course, live on Newstalk 1040 AM all over the greater Tampa Bay area. And this is what an incredible week. I'm going to be very quickly bringing in Paul F. Villarreal in here. This is, I mean, you know, when they say what a difference a day makes, what a difference a week makes, I mean, unbelievable what we had, the news over the weekend with President Trump, the news today of him picking J.D. Vance as his vice president, the RNC opens today. I've got to be very careful about what I say because of due to the different algorithms and different things out there with the various social media platforms. So we will, do some modifications of some of the wording out there. But we obviously had that crazy incident, shocking, shameful, just, horrible, horrific incident with President Trump and the crowd over there. And our condolences definitely go out to all the people affected. We heard reporting from Selena Zito. We heard reporting from people in the stands. There are going to be different hearings and investigations. And there's so much to talk about and unpack with this. And I've had people texting me and wanting to know what I thought. And here we go. So we're going to talk about it right now. Let's quickly bring in Paul F. Villarreal here. But before I do that, let me say this. That I posted, and I will go back and I'll show my LinkedIn and stuff like that. I posted very, very rapidly. And I'm not going to say like a lot of things were happening in real time and a lot of people are having the same thoughts. And I don't want to have, and look, I think so many of my predictions have borne out to be accurate. Obviously not on this, unfortunately, maybe Tucker Carlson was a little bit prescient on this. And many of us were concerned with the level of rhetoric and the different things. And again, I may make some mistakes here and I reserve the right to revise and extend. And we're here to lower the temperature. We're not doing, we're not going to do a shock jock type of show for clicks or anything like that. That's not how we roll anyway. And you know that if you listen to the John D. Villarreal Show. But in terms of J.D. Vance, being the pick, I predicted that. And in terms of President Biden, being the presumptive nominee, there's a lot of things. And we have so much to go through. I mean, I could do 5 hours, 10 hours. I mean, almost anybody could, right? But, one of the things I posted very rapidly, and we'll go to it here later, is that picture. And I posted things like post debate. We talked about that like almost real time last show. And it was the same kind of thing with this picture. When I saw that picture from the AP of President Trump with the fist up, with the flag in the background, with the Secret Service around him, everything, I'm like, this is one of the most important / iconic photos in American politics, certainly year to date, maybe of this decade. I mean, it's one of the like this. And I talked to Paul and we were talking offline. I'm going to bring him in here right now, real time. I said, this is, and listen, everybody thinks that their generation and the time they're going through, because we didn't live back then, you know what I mean? Like, and is the most important and everything. And there's been, Teddy Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, there's been some incredible moments. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's not just because it's now, and we're going to expand on this throughout the show, because there's bigger themes. There's the news, and we're going to talk about the news, but there's some bigger themes that we've been talking about that I think are very important to touch on right now, particularly with this show. And one of the themes is, that, well, let me put it this way. With that photo, this really evoked for me images of President George Washington crossing the Delaware, President Lincoln with the Gettysburg Address, with so many things. It's not just because I'm conservative. It's not just because, I've supported President Trump and everything, and I've been a huge supporter of President for a long, long time now, Paul and I. It's not just that. It's a couple things. One is globally, and David Sachs has talked about this, and we've talked about this, and other stuff talked about this. You really have a question of political legitimacy with various systems in that, and I've said this, and other people I'm telling you, if you want to be ahead of the game, if I've not proven it over the last month, I don't know when I've proved it. Okay. If you want to be ahead of the game, you have to listen to the John D. Villarreal, radio show here on Newstalk 1040, and also live on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and usually X and stuff. Because it's any legitimate politically legitimate system of government has to represent the citizenry, the people, the population that they represent. It has to. It's not a one-to-one, it's not like, hey, mob rule, pure democracy, it's like voting on American Idol or something like that. Nothing against American Idol. It doesn't matter. Just let me revise together. Any kind of game show, right? So that's not about that. It's not a popularity contest. But when you have, as I've said before, and I'll just repeat it, I got to reload some of these. I gotta, let me change that language. I have to refresh some of these topics. And when you have a 60-40, 1/3, 2/3, or 2/3, 1/3, 70-30, 80-20 issues, like the border, and like there's so many different things. And the public is not getting a response over a 5-year period, a 10-year period, a 20-year period, a 30-year period, and so many different things. Then you have to say, like, what's going on? It's really crazy. It's kind of like what David Sachs says, and I gotta get back to the Trump things. I don't want to lose that thread. This is how my mind works. But as I'm trying to give you the detail behind the headline, but I want to make sure you get the headline. And he quoted someone else, and I want to try to pull that up because it's a great quote. And this is, I want to give a credit because it's a great quote, but it was something to the effect of the French elections, right? You had, and I don't know enough, and I've said before, and I was talking to my mom, who's a big time liberal and has been forever. And I don't want to air her, but I mean, that's just what it is. And we were talking about like the French elections and obviously what has happened over here. And I said, listen, it's different over there because here we have Democrats and Republicans and far left and far right. And these pejoratives get thrown around, I think, a little too casually, although I think that and particularly towards the right, where they just try to, marginalize anybody any of the 70 million plus people, and now probably more people that have voted or may vote for President Trump. So basically half the country, and I think that that's unfair. However, in other systems, there are like 4, 6, 8, 10 different parties that are there getting votes, and some of them are a little more left and a little more right. And so so I don't know enough to know enough. Okay, I know that. So, but in any event, the point of it is this. However, that is the characterizations aside, the people. Marie Le Pen's party, I think it's RN, Paul can correct me, got the most actual votes, the biggest percentage of the votes. And so again, I'm not making any kind of analysis or endorsement, Lord knows, or anything about, I'm not characterizing anything about her party, anything like that. That doesn't even matter right now. The point is that the quote was something on X that David Sachs put up on his on the latest All In podcast with the besties, that basically France went and voted for, national sovereignty and stronger borders or something like that. And what they got and what they ended up with was communism. Because what happened is Macron and his Social Democrats or something, I got to double check what the party is. I mean, made a deal with the more of a far left party to freeze out. It's basically like their version of, it's kind of like deep state tricks or whatever you want to call it, like that. And the point of it is they're frustrating the will of the voters. It's not about Trump. It's not about Le Pen. It's not about Nigel Farage. I mean, we've seen this all across. It's not about any of these things. And one of the Friedberg was saying, and one of the best is like, oh, hey, is this the rise of socialism and stuff like that? Because I mean, look, Silicon Valley for a long time, and even Wall Street may be more left and stuff like that. But make no mistake, they're very much capitalist. Okay, that's how they made their money and stuff like that. So in that vein, and Sachs came back and said, no, it's not about that. It's about, the voters globally are frustrated and they're kicking out incumbents. You look at what's going on with Trudeau up in Canada, absolutely right. Right. So we're seeing mostly a conservative shift, if you will, but it's not so much left, right. It's more of people feel very much left behind, the forgotten person. Right. And that you have these entrenched power centers, whether it's Wall Street, DC, the various capitals and stuff like that, almost colluding together. And no conspiracy theories or anything like that, but I mean, they're literally getting together, okay? At the WEF, at Davos, at NATO summits, they're literally getting together. And when you have this thing, like someone had to make the quartering, Jeremy from the quartering, give him a hat tip out there on YouTube, had to bring up to, there's a point where I'm going with all this that relates directly to Trump. So stay right here. About the GARM, and all these advertisers, like 90% of the advertising, like just a huge amount of advertising that I think was somehow connected to the WEF and stuff like that. And Elon's like, hey, this looks really bad. And Jeremy from the corner like, Elon, like you just signed up, X just signed up for this. So you might well go talk to your CEO and stuff. And the point of it is when you have advertising dollars and media and deep state and bureaucrats, and hats off to the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, to strike down the Chevron decision, where basically it's like, no, you can't. If you are a bureaucrat, you can't do things that are administrative, in the administrative state. You can't do things beyond what the law is. That's why we pass laws. Okay, you don't get to just do whatever you want by fiat there. Okay, and we need to. Governments have to be responsive to the people. That's it. You don't like the way the people vote, so whatever, then you don't just get to. So that's why this picture is so iconic. We're going to dive more into this. There's more to talk about here. And I'm sure Paul's going to say some things, and maybe I didn't fully articulate it right because, unfortunately, the problem with being a super genius is we have literally 10 hours plus of show, and I'm trying to get it into the 2 hours that we have here on Newstalk 1040. And I want to make this relate because I want to go wide, but we're also trying to go deep. What we have like a lot of other countries, but America is, one, we live here, and two, it is a very special place. It is, like Reagan said, that shining city on the hill, that beacon of freedom, and they say democracy, it's a constitutional republic. But whatever it is, it has to represent the people. And now the question is, much like France, and that's why I put that. Do we have a alignment of elites and deep state and insiders, political? Look, President Biden's been in he's had some elective office for like 50 years. Back in George Washington times, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, these great leaders, these founders of the country, they went home. They were lawyers, they were farmers, they were inventors, they were, Ben Franklin did all kinds of different things. But I mean, I don't know. But and again, he didn't serve. But I mean, he was obviously one of the founders, and they had other things they were doing. It wasn't politics wasn't their profession. Now, maybe, okay, things have evolved and maybe you need more expertise. And, that's a whole different, we can't have all these political theory discussions right now. But the bottom line is who's looking after the citizens? Who's representing their interests? Are their interests represented, or is this a permanent ruling class, as Andrew Codevilla would say, Professor Codevilla would say, right? I mean, and the late great Rush Limbaugh would talk about that on his show. And I mean, this is definitely the kind of time in the days that we miss having that level of broadcast ability and excellence, and certainly on the conservative movement. So I'm going to try my best, to hold up my end of it here on Newstalk 1040. And so it's in this context, with the events of last weekend, this past Saturday, I can remember, like, Paul literally called me up, and I was sitting there with my daughter and on the couch downstairs, and I was sitting with my wife, and my wife just got home from work. She works 6 days a week and stuff. And he said, he told me the news. I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. Like everybody else, I couldn't believe it. And we've had permanent Washington that has been against Donald Trump from the jump, from the escalator, from 2015 on. Before that, they loved him with the checks, this and that, whatever. And now it's a question of, and look at what they're doing to President Biden. The Democrats just voted for this dude, and they're talking about doing the hot swap. Do we have a system where the people are in charge, or do we have a system where the elites are permanently in charge? And in that context, literally as Mike Tyson would say, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. We saw President Trump literally in the middle of it, in the heat of it. I'm not going to use certain words. We understand. In the heat of it, and literally injured, gets up in real time and raises that fist, talks to the crowd. That level, as I said, that level of what I said, of presence of mind is encouraged, is next level. And the symbolism of that, do not get like emotional, is unbelievable. And no disrespect to anywhere else in the world, is so purely American. It's unbelievable. I mean, this hit viscerally for people. I mean, you saw people like Bill Ackman, billionaire hedge fund, Elon Musk. I support President Trump. I mean, you just saw a pouring out of emotion. And you saw people on the left. Some people said some crazy stuff and they lost their jobs. And I'm not for cancel culture, but some of that stuff is way over the top. And I think that the appropriate decisions were made there and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit. We're going to get any specific cases. It's just from a general standpoint. I think there was some overheated rhetoric. Actually, we're not going to get into any specific cases. I think there's some overheated rhetoric. But people want leadership. People want to know that the people are still in charge, and people just want an opportunity. And having President Trump as a leader, as they said, in ancient time, weak horse, strong horse. I mean, you can't have a stronger contrast in the last month between President Trump and President Biden. Paul, I'm sorry, I did take a lot of time here. 3 minutes here to the break. Your comments quickly. Am I on the right track, wrong track? What are your thoughts? There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the right track. And first, just let me say, where the rally took place, about 100 miles from where I am in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
I was not at the rally, but I know the kind of people who were at the rally, like in terms of just the Rust Belt, Appalachian people. And I did call you up when it happened. And geez, I feel emotional right now just thinking about it. But it's
unbelievable.
Shocked me. It was shocking. I still can't believe it right now.
And I hate to use my age, but I would say I was alive and you were alive when the Reagan incident happened.
Yeah.
And that was shocking. But this. And much like the insiders and the political elites didn't like Reagan and Washington didn't like Reagan, but this with Trump is next level because of what's been going on. I did not want to interrupt you. Continue to go, Paul.
Yeah, look, I think you summed it up really well, which is that the iconic photo and in that moment, and Trump spoke about this with Selena Zito, who you mentioned earlier, who was a very famous Pennsylvania reporter located in Pittsburgh, who was at the rally.
Oh, my gosh.
What he said to her about that was, he's like, look, when I got up, on the ground with the agents. The crowd hadn't moved, and there was just this incredible energy there. It's like, what he felt like was that he had to tell them something or do something to reassure them and the world. And as you said, in that moment, he put that and everybody else ahead of himself, despite the jeopardy that he was in. And you can't fake that.
Can't fake it,
And
can't teach
everybody
it,
saw it.
nothing. And I'll leave with this before the break. People talk about President Trump, how, and Selena Zito talked about this when she was here, how he moved his head just slightly right before that maybe the hand of God is in this. I don't want to get overly religious, but I mean, like, if the last month hasn't tried to tell you that there's a higher power, man, there's something, like, you can sit here, I'm a political expert, I'm a super, you can try to predict everything. And then as the old saying goes, men make plans, people make plans and God laughs. It's unbelievable. This hit people. This has affected people very, very deeply. We're going to talk about it, and we're happy to share the time right here with you on the John D. Villarreal Show on Newstalk 1040 AM live, and also on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and later on X and LinkedIn. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
This is an SRNU special report. I'm John Scott. Donald
everyone. John D. Villarreal here on Newstalk 1040 a.m. One incredible week. Unbelievable. Joined by Paul F. Villarreal. And we're also live on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and later will be posted on X and also LinkedIn. Unbelievable. Speaking of LinkedIn, I'm going to show you my LinkedIn of what I posted right here. And I've gotten a lot of good, well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to show you that's meaningless. I'm going to show you what I posted on LinkedIn almost in as I'll say real time. I mean, very, very obviously afterwards, very quickly afterwards, and made a much like I did with the debate and had a very strong statement on that. And I'm just going to go to that right now. And this is this iconic photo. And right here, and I said, and I had another post before that too that kind of joined up, and I would let a repost sort of emerge from both of them in Facebook and X, and I'll go to that later. But I'm right here with this picture, and I said, pray for President Trump. The presence and poise he showed in these moments is next level. This could be the most important / iconic photo in American politics, certainly of this year to date, maybe of this decade or longer. This is a time where we all need to come together as a country, in my opinion. Photo credit AP 2024. And that had a lot of people taking a look at that. Okay. And I mean, you see this with the hands up and the Secret Service and the flag behind him. I mean, just an incredible, I mean, hat tip to that photographer. Just perfectly captured that moment, in my opinion. Just absolutely incredible. And then I also posted, thanks to before, something I'll probably pull that one up too, but basically thanks to President Biden, President Clinton, Vice President Harris, and others for their statements in that moment, and just an incredible moment. Paul, your comments, you were in the middle of some discussion and analysis, and as you said, you were about 100 miles away from this incident. You understand the people there. You've lived in Pennsylvania. Definitely most of your life. Give me the sense of what's going on there and what people are talking about. And of course, you're very active on X. You've got over 20,000 followers on X. What's going on?
Yeah, one of the things that struck me, and we talked about this previously between ourselves, was and what President Trump said, which is that none of the people moved when the incident happened. Like usually in a situation like that, and I would think a lot of people would be scattering and running away and for fearing for themselves, of course, which is a perfectly natural reaction. But they didn't there. And it seemed like so many of the people were more concerned about, was Trump okay, than am I okay? That's one of the things that really struck me about that.
I did have that impression as well.
What that means to me is, and I actually wrote a post on X about this today that's pinned to my profile. People can go look at it. I was talking about JD Vance. We can talk about him later, but I was talking
I'll pull
more
up your
about
post while you do it. Go ahead.
The people of Appalachia and how they are, and the people that part of Pennsylvania is both the Rust Belt and Appalachia, and that's basically, if you want to pick a spot of the forgotten man, that's a really good spot to pick, because that's where, that's the heart of that place, the Rust Belt and Appalachia. And the connection between people here in Pennsylvania, throughout Appalachia, to President Trump is so strong, it's really hard to describe it. And I can tell you, going around here, the signs and different things on barns, on houses, everything. It's just like the signs. Some of the signs have never come down from 2016.
Wow.
I mean, it's like President Trump is like an avatar of hope for the people here. And it's extremely strong, the feeling and the sense of that. And that's the reason why it's just you had to have somebody, I believe, and I've said it before, in 2020, like Joe Biden, who also has Pennsylvania roots, even though Trump doesn't actually have roots, it feels like he does here. Philadelphia, Penn. You had to have somebody like Biden to go against President Trump, because nobody else would have been able to do that, because the connection is so deep and people feel such a sense of kinship with him, which is truly remarkable given who he is, where he comes
the
from,
billionaire
and
from
how much
Queens,
money he has.
the billionaire builder.
Yep. Right. He's the blue collar billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something really true about that. And he just understands the people here, and they love him for that.
Let me just put this in here, and we're going to pull up your posting on X and talk about it. Elon Musk on X an hour ago, and has just a Trump Vance resounds with victory, has 7.3 million impressions. Unbelievable. Also, Elon, a lot of people counted Elon out and everything like that, right? And he just said usage hit another all-time high yesterday with 417 billion user seconds globally. In the US, user seconds reached 93 billion, 23% higher than the previous record of 76 billion in a single day. Elon has also become a symbol of freedom and Americana and capitalism, like all rolled into one, right? And not unlike Trump, quite frankly. And obviously Trump with the iconic, is ready, but you can't thank Elon enough for placing and look, people speak and markets speak, and people as they say, and physically people vote with their feet in terms of different jurisdictions and states and federalism and or nations in terms of where they want to live and do business and everything like that. And I think you can say the same thing digitally, right, with Elon and this huge and X and what he's done with X with the free speech movement there, particularly in a time like this when you had, and I'm not here, and listen, I want, this is a time of lowering the temperature and coming together, and we've always, preached for that. But there were some odd postings and some odd reporting, and I, right afterwards where it's like, oh, Trump fell and possible this is like, dude, we all saw it. You can't spin like it was very bizarre. Even on some conservative news sites, it was very weird. And so in that context, something like X, I think it's very, very needed, very, very super useful right now. Let's go over here and let's go to hold on. Let me just unshare this for a second. And let me get this lined up. Dude, this is a very interesting situation right here. We're going to go right now to your posting here, Paul. Okay, now we're okay. All right. I don't know what else you have up there, but I'm going to.
It's a long post, so you might want to look at it and then come back to it. It's pretty long.
So right now you've got 20,138 followers right here. And then is this the one on Vance here? Is this what you're talking about? The one you've got pinned?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, it is a long post. And it's like, JD Vance and the VP choice. You were talking about Governor Bergen, Senator Rubio. You've got some different things. Rust Belt. Yes, you've got some different things. Oh, this is definitely okay. So I mean, this is what's great about Paul's, X posting. He will go into some depth. And Paul was a history major from Cornell, Ivy League, and stuff like that. And definitely, I think that's what people like about your account on X that used to be anonymous, and you did announce on the John D. Villarreal show here who you are, and you remove the anonymity, is that you do the deeper analysis. You do like to use the citations, show the receipts, and all that type of stuff. And I think people appreciate that, particularly with whether it's the rallies or different things that'll happen here. I've been arguing for a long time about having JD Vance as the VP. I'm glad that Trump did make that move. I think there were reports that there was heavy lobbying from the News Corp land there and Mr. Murdoch. Allegedly, I don't know, but there was reporting that there was heavy lobbying for anyone but Vance and Doug Burgum and the heat that was between Trump and Murdoch and all that type of stuff. And listen, you know, people are. How do I say this? I'm trying to be kind. You know, people have had criticisms of the whole, you know, Karl Rove and the Bushes and all that type of stuff. And I will just say this. I mean, you know, listen, we need everyone in the Republican Party and all that type of stuff. And there's no disrespect to anybody, but, you know, whether, I don't care if your name's Clinton or Obama or Bush or whomever else, or Kennedy used to be, right? I mean, no family or name or anything has some lock on American politics, dude, or the conservative movement or the Democratic movement or, you know, anything like that. That's craziness, you know? And, you know, and as much as I criticize AOC and stuff like that, AOC's got a lot of haters, and the squad have a lot of haters on the left, but she's got every right to speak. She's been elected, dude. You know what I mean? Like if you don't like that, then look at your own party. Maybe like Elon and Bill Ackman and some of these other people, maybe you're in the wrong party. Okay, but you can't just shut her down, dude, because again, it's almost like trying to contain water or something like that. This is really what we're talking about. People have, and this is again going back to the founders, and this is more political theory and where do rights and you know, where do rights come from? They don't come from government. They come natural rights or come from God and all that type of stuff. It's like people want to be free, dude. People want to have their voice heard. And that's what it is. So I think that, you know, this pick of Vance, well, let's talk about that. Let's spin to that for a second. What impact do you have? Okay, you're obviously East Palo. Okay. What impact do you think that Vance will have on this ticket right now? First of all, I think that this makes a lot of Trump supporters very happy. Okay. Because particularly with the events of last weekend, I mean, we've seen where we don't need any more Mike Pence's or anything like that, right? Anyone that the big money donors and inside Washington is all happy about, like, forget it, because what we've seen is that they would try to, you know, marginalize Trump. You know, they tried to impeach him, and then there was this whole list. And someone made a comment on Real Clear Politics, and some of it was a little bit I didn't agree with, and maybe a little bit askew in my opinion, potentially. I don't know, but there was this whole long list, and everyone's got these lists. But all the stuff they've done to Trump with the Russia collusion hoax and spying the campaign and all these things, it's insane. We've never ever seen it before. Definitely, the pinnacle was last weekend. I mean, as Tucker Carlson said, first they do this, then they do this, and then they do this. I mean, and you know, and of course, Roger Stone's been, I mean, not, is that right? Roger Stone? Who's now I'm not talking about political Roger Stone. I'm talking about the director Roger Stone. Is that right? Am I getting that right? Am I remembering that? Platoon?
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone. There we go. Okay. I knew that was a little bit wrong. Okay. Oliver Stone out there, you know, has made some movies and different things. And, you know, we've got RFK Jr. running, and then like some people didn't want to give him, you know, secret. I mean, it's just there's crazy stuff, right? That has been happening. The point is that, like, you know, if they hate Vance, meaning inside Washington hates Vance, and you know, whether it's Leader McConnell or, you know, both sides, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And the guy's very, very smart, Yale law graduate, and he's done some hedge fund or VC work or something like that. He's got Narya. He's done some different things out there, and very articulate and stuff like that. He's criticized Trump in the past, but who cares? That doesn't matter. Like, I mean, like that's politics, and people can evolve and change. And listen, I think it takes a long. I think people. There's a lot of people that didn't understand Trump. I think we've seen the last weekend. We've seen people wake up and come around to what time it is with Trump. So I don't hold that against JD Vance. And really, I think the two best picks would have been, given everyone that's in the mix right now, either JD Vance or Vivek Ramaswamy. Love them both. They're both fantastic. Both Yale Law. It makes me, you know, I didn't apply. That's one of the only places I didn't apply to Yale Law. It makes me think of maybe I should apply to Yale Law. Love Berkeley. Go Bears. Don't know disrespect. But I mean, like, you know, some, I think in some in some respects, some schools, their reputation maybe, was they're living on the laurels from 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, even whatever, not maybe, but a long time ago. Maybe sometimes it's earned, maybe sometimes it's not earned. I will say that I don't know all the Yale lawyers out there, but Ben says, although he's doing a good job, I think, of being no, he wasn't. He was Yale something else. No, I don't think he was Yale.
He was a Yale undergrad.
Yeah, he was Yale undergrad. Okay. But he's doing a great job. I think he's doing a great job as president of University of Florida and doing some great stuff out there. I mean, that they're really doing so hats off to that. But I mean, yeah, okay, so perfect. So no disrespect. So Yale law. I don't know all the Yale law graduates. I've known a lot of Yale law graduates, but one of them, Professor Yu, my former professor who was on this show, John D. Villarreal show. So I mean, you look at Professor Yu, you look at J.D. Vance, you look at Vivek Ramaswamy. Very, very impressive. Now, of course, we've got the Clintons. So, but anyway, and I mean, listen, Bill Clinton, very impressive politically, no doubt about it. And Secretary Clinton has done her thing as well, and has done some been very effective for the Democratic side, but not as effective as Bill Clinton, in my opinion, but politically anyway. But I would say, look, the thing is, if you had to choose between those two, I think President Trump made the right pick, because I think Vivek Ramaswamy is more effective in the media by a little bit. Like, I'd put Vivek up against pretty much anybody. Like none of the stuff. Nobody can handle him. Okay. JD Vance right there. But I think, as much as I like Vivek, it's a little, you don't want anyone in the number 2 slot that might want that number 1 slot right now, because Vivek was literally running again. You know what I mean? Like, JD Vance wasn't running for president, but Vivek was. I think Vivek needs a little bit more maturity. I think Vivek's younger than me, right? I think Vivek, there's some days I need more maturity. Okay, all right. And it's, I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. But I think Vivek's a little bit, as they say in wrestling, a little bit too much of a self mark. I've been that myself, so I understand, believe me, that, game recognizes game there. And that's not necessarily even a criticism. A lot of that, listen, I'm someone with insane horsepower, super genius, 4-time national champion, all these types of things. And when you're that gifted, as Vivek is, you sometimes, using wrestling parlance, can live the gimmick, and you understand why. When you're Deontay Wilder or Mike Tyson, you think you can knock everybody out because you can, until you can't. And so I don't even fault Vivek for that. God gifted you with insane levels of talent. And again, no disrespect. I think Vivek's Hindu, whatever religion, however you want to characterize that. And all respect to Vivek, and we love everybody out there, absolutely, and thank God for that, right? That we have all this diversity, that we have different things, different cultures and different and everything. It's like, it's great to learn from each other and coexist peacefully. Okay, but I think when you're that gifted with Vivek, life, no matter how gifted you are, like me, like I used to be so strong. I used to be able to literally lift cars. I think Paul said, I was crazy strong. Can't do it anymore. Life will life will humble you. And I'm not a guy that's like, oh, you just need to be humble. Like, to be humble, to be humble. Like that's a thing in and of itself. But there's something to that. And you have to, if you're on a team, and a political and an administration, and whether you're president or whoever else, right? And that's why this pick of JD Vance is so important. Life is a team. It's individual, and we celebrate the individual. We celebrate freedom and liberty and opportunity. But I mean, I think you have to understand your position on that team, your role in that team, and how to be most effective and stuff like that. And like now, when I talk to employers or anything like that, or doing business, I know what I'm super good at, and I know what I need help with. And we call it humility, call it wisdom, call it anything that you want to call it, but that's being more effective. And I think that Vivek just needs that little bit extra to be ready. But when he's ready, I can't wait that guy's going to be, and he can do incredible. I hope he's in the administration too at a great level. He's so important and so effective. I love Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay. But in terms of that number 2 pick, I think Vance gives you that little extra. Sitting senator, very important, can help deliver. Ohio's not really in play anymore. It used to be a battleground, used to be a toss-up state. But guess what's right next door? That if you win that state, it's so important, Pennsylvania. And I think, as you're saying, Paul, Vance can speak to that Pennsylvania voter. Vance is someone that, they're not going to be reaching for that impeachment, card real quick with President Trump when you've got JD Vance right behind him. Okay. And so there is that impeachment insurance, with JD Vance. And I think that JD Vance, is more tuned into that VP role right now, today, than Vivek Ramaswamy. And I love this pick. I think it's the best pick that President Trump, of the ones that were being discussed on the short list. Okay. There's always more people, and I don't know everyone out there, but of the people that were being discussed on the short list, I like that. And no disrespect to Senator Rubio. Senator Rubio's come a long way, but still, the old McCain stuff, Gang of Eight, political ties to the Bushes, stuff like that. And both of them are from Florida. There's some trickiness there. Doug Burgum, no disrespect to Doug Burgum, but if Team Murdoch's pushing for Doug Burgum and stuff like that, it just, I don't know what state Doug Burgum helps you bring. You know what I mean? Make no mistake, we still have an election here. And the Democrats aren't. It's not like they're not running. They're running, and as we've seen in the last month, who knows what's going to happen next month? Okay, with whatever. But I mean, right now it's looking really, really good for President Trump. But I love this pick of JD Vance. Paul, final thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, JD Vance is in some ways very similar to you and me, which is an Appalachian kid that went to elite education and ended up in Silicon Valley. So I think the main thing that you mentioned was he is from that area. He is from the Rust Belt. He is from Appalachia. And President Trump is trying to win Rust Belt states so that he can procure an election victory. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. JD Vance knows what the people of those states' lives are like. He has been through a lot of stuff himself when he was younger. So he adds that to the ticket as a thing. But as a vice president in an administration, as you mentioned, he is a very smart guy. He does have Silicon Valley contacts. He has a famous book. Of course, we know that Trump likes celebrities. The book was made into a movie. He's young. He's talented. He is a good communicator. I agree with you that he's not quite as good as Vivek, but that's saying quite a bit. Vance is a very talented guy, and I think that he is beloved by many of the people in the MAGA movement. And of all of the choices available, he himself is the most MAGA. So I think it makes sense. I know you were hoping for this, and I think that Trump made a smart pick.
I think I was hoping for this. I think it's. I love the pick. I love the pick. The more I think about it, the more I love it. The more I think about the more I love it. It's unbelievable, and I can't wait to see him out there. Because I think he's ready to play that number 2 role, but I think Trump can give him a portfolio that he can run with, and I hope Vivek's in the administration, and Vivek gets a portfolio and he can do. Well, honestly, like I said before, I would love to see Vivek. I don't know if he's taken or not. He's a biotech executive, so I would love to see Vivek.
Can I say something very quickly?
We have 10 seconds out. Quick.
Vivek, there's a report that Vivek will be in.
I hope he runs HHS, something like that. We're going to talk about all this and more. The John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040, on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and then later reposted on X and LinkedIn. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 6 minutes.
your home for news, talk, and information. 1040 WHBO Pinellas Park, Tampa Bay's all new News Talk 1040.
What's up, everyone? John D. Villarreal here, John D. Villarreal Radio Show here, News 1040, live all over the greater Tampa Bay area. It is 5:06 on July 15th. We are living through history right now. My daughter, Janir, is in the background. No doubt about it. We love her. She's great. I love her anyway. And we are also live on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook. We posted later. We will repost later on X. We're having some technical stuff there. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. We're talking with Paul at Villarreal. We're talking about the events of last weekend. We're talking about Trump picking J.D. Vance. The Republican National Convention starts tonight. We also were talking about President Biden still in the race. I believe we're going to be joined this hour by Professor Jim Liu, Professor Jim Liu, sorry, Jim, of Johns Hopkins University. We will see, schedule permitting. I'm also reaching out to more of my Pennsylvania contacts. Paul, I just thought of something kind of crazy. And I just think that this could be one of the smartest things I ever did in terms of an important conversation, or it could be one of the craziest things I ever did. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to call my mom live on the air. This is someone that's, I don't want to reveal her age, but she's lived a full life, has been through things, lived through Kennedy, lived through Reagan, lived through all this type of stuff. Big time liberal, big time. Yeah, I'm going to call grandma. Big time liberal. Would never vote for Donald Trump, but her whole family's been from Pennsylvania. She's lived in Pennsylvania most of her life and stuff like that. I just think that I talked to her a little bit yesterday. I think it could be a very interesting conversation. And I think that this is a time where we really need to talk to each other. So Paul, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang up with you, and let me try to call mom, and then I'll call you back. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Let me try that. All right. Let me see what happens.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously I'm going to have to talk to my mom and let her know. First of all, I don't know if she's going to pick up, number one. And number two is, and she has excoriated Paul and myself for all our lives about, but particularly me. Paul's more of a recent conservative, but about being conservative like that. But anyway, hold on a second here. I'll have to immediately disclose that she's on the air. Calling my mom. See if she picks up. No, she might be busy.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 81.
Okay, well, that didn't work. But we'll try her again. Now, my mom, she's up there in age, so she's got all kinds of doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And so we'll see. Let me try since I have the line free. I was supposed to be joined by Professor Liu. Let me try him, see if I can reach him real quick. And I know he gets busy as well. Let me just see if I can grab him real quick. So I want I think he had a really good post on LinkedIn, and I just want to see. I would love to have his comments. Calling Professor Liu from Johns Hopkins University.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available.
Well, that didn't work. We will try them again in the next hour. Let's get Paul back in here at this point. Hey. Yeah, couldn't get her. I'll try her again next hour or next break, next half hour.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with anyway. So J.D. Vance, okay. We both think that that's a great pick. I agree with that. You talked about, and we talked about how this is basically, there was the oust Biden movement and how that is basically frozen now. And I think that it's definitely going to be Biden at this point. I think that any momentum for, the Obama team, the Obama bros and maybe, Team Obama versus Biden and all that. And let's have the speed primary and all this type of stuff. You know, and I think that's over. And then Jason Calacanis is from I love the way, like, one of my, and then who knows, you know, but one of my followers, because I was tagging in the All In. I was specifically talking about the All In stuff on my LinkedIn on the podcast, and I'm like, hey, Silicon Valley is going back, and here's the All In podcast. You know, they're not going back, but they're starting to move with Trump. And one of my followers saying, hey, Connections, really good guy, was saying, oh, you called this a long time ago. You're like John Stradamus from Nostradamus, right? The famous, historically famous predictor and stuff like that. Now all of a sudden, Jason Calacanis is calling himself Nostradamus, you know, and I tagged in, who knows? But I'm like, oh, that's why I try to tell you, if you want to be ahead of the game, you got to listen to this. So I'm saying, you know, we talked about the stuff with Trump. We're going to revisit that. Obviously, there's a lot more to talk about there. We talked about JD Vance being a great pick. Where are we at with President Biden? Do you agree with me that he's going to be we've been saying for a long time now that he's going to be the nominee. There's no reason for him not to be the nominee on the Democratic side, other than there, you know, and again, David Sachs says too, this is a side, meaning the Democrats, that just refuse to lose, refuse to give up power, you know, honestly, when we're not alleging that, but just look at how they treated Trump the first time, right? The Steele dossier, spying the campaign, impeachment, all this type of stuff, just craziness. You have a sitting president of the United States who just won all these delegates, and you're trying to switch him. Does the replace Biden movement, is that over now, or is it paused? Where are we at with that, Paul?
Well, at minimum, it's paused. There's no question about that because of what happened at the rally. You've seen, you know, Biden himself has pulled ads. Some of the Democratic Congress affiliates, you know, the campaign heads, they've pulled ads. So I do think that that's not going to happen right now. Now, will the movement be restored in a week, 2 weeks? I don't know. But as you said earlier, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We're running out of time here. And I think that President Biden has wisely himself understood that the turn of events could be to his favor. And I think he's kind of, you know, he went back to the White House. He's had several meetings with the press or on television late at 8 p.m. last night about all of this. And that, of course, centers him. He is the person helping America supposedly get through the crisis. And that works to his advantage. I personally believe.
I was going to say, just real quick, just want to get your reaction. You're probably already going to say it. What's your reaction to President Biden's speech about the incident this weekend?
Yeah, I actually wrote a post about that. And to be honest with you, and I think you and I talked about this, I was disappointed in it because I thought it could have been more than what it was. I think he did say some good things in there, but to me personally, I felt that it was a little too much.
Seemed a little
both
political,
sides,
right? Yeah.
A little too political, too much campaignish, rather than kind of an elevated conversation about, look, let's all come together and, you know, put that stuff aside for a moment. So I was a little disappointed about that, even though I give him credit. He did say some things that I thought were good. But so I think part of what's happening now, and I've seen this in some of the reporting, like from Axios and NBC, is that I think that there's a growing sense in the Democratic Party that Trump's going to win. And because of that, there may be less of a sense that we need to replace Biden because Biden is going to drag us down. And it may be something to the contrary, which is, well, somebody's got to lose to Trump and might as well be Biden. And I think we're starting to see some of a little bit of a switching of that in some sections.
I see that. I'm getting texts from people, and we may have some people coming on the air here in a second. I'm working on things. I'm working on a couple things right now. I mean, it's. I feel like, and I want to be very cautious about what I'm saying, but I think that I thought it was too political. I think that he just knows how to campaign. I think on the one hand, he showed that it was a response. He said some good things. I liked he's good on teleprompter, right? And I think that he's got a lot of practice and stuff like that. And I think that he showed him, I think he did fine, right? I mean, I don't think Biden's going anywhere. I think there was a little bit both sidesism, if you will, for sure. I think that they left off like a whole raft of other stuff, Rand Paul and all kinds of things that have happened on to folks on the right, some of the Supreme Court justices, stuff like that. And I think that there was like maybe one or two things on the other side that it was maybe a little bit different that I'm not sure, should have been included. But anyway, I think that. But overall, but I'm okay with the overall message in that, everyone's got to chill out, and we all have to come together and work together. And you can disagree. The universities used to be a place where you had vigorous discussions. I really applaud, honestly, the Oxford Union, where they're debating tough issues, right? And really chopping it up, and they had, Speaker Pelosi or former Speaker Pelosi over there. And one of these persons from the bands, I can't remember, and they were doing some, Ben Shapiro's been over there. They've been doing some serious stuff over there. And we need to have that again, and you can have, like in our family, you can have serious disagreements with someone and politically, but still like them, be friendly, be neighbors, love them in the family, whatever like that. Like that's the way it should be, right? I mean, here's the thing, if you're right, you should be able to withstand questions and scrutiny on your positions. If you can convince me that you're wrong, I mean, it's like Sean McGuire and other people. I've been saying this for a while. It's a real hallmark, a real benefit, if you will. I'm saying this, a real compliment where you can change your mind when new data comes in. Okay. I mean, like perfect. If it's sunny outside, I'm like, oh, okay, I can't wait to go to the beach. And then all of a sudden I walk outside and there's a big thunderstorm. I might change my mind and go back inside. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not having convictions. That's like being smart because the information changed, the data changed. Okay. So I think that, we see this, right? We see this, but before, like we'd have a situation where people want to characterize what happened with things in DC at a certain date one way as the worst thing ever. Okay. But then a month or two back, you had people surrounding the White House when Trump was in office, and there was a fire by a church and they're shaking on the fence, and then they were making fun of Trump's in the bunker. So wait a minute. And so it's okay to do the state house in Tennessee, or courthouses in Washington or Portland. So you just don't have a fairness, and I think people are tired of the lies and they're tired of the bias and all this type of stuff. Now, I think it's important to not, and this is where we spin it forward. I think it's important to not use this. It's tough, right? Okay, so let me separate this. On the one hand, I don't think it's good to be overly political with this event, right? I don't think to necessarily use it politically, but I'll come back to that because it's almost impossible not to. We'll come back to that. But I don't think it's good to be overly political. Like Paul, we were talking about some of the conspiracy theories. First of all, you should have a review. You should review everything. Review the security. Review the Secret Service. Review everything because this is a major event. Literally, there was some security failure. I mean, that's just apparently what was seemed to be, in my opinion, factually what happened. But as I said too, and then because my wife was saying, my wife's Israeli, and she was making some comments like, I don't want to describe what she's. Okay. My daughter. Oh my gosh. I've got the mini wife over here, my daughter, and stuff like that. But I was over in Israel, and I'll just talk about my own experience. Very different levels of security there. But in America, and again, love Israel. It's great. But and I'm not taking any position on what's going on right now or anything like that. I'm just saying, it's just, but there's always a balance. And I apologize to my Newstalk 1040 audience here. I'm with the pauses in the air. I'm just trying to be very careful right now because I think it's important to be very, precise and reasonable in the comments. There's always a balance. You're running a campaign between freedom, right? We have First Amendment rights to assemble and all this type of stuff and movement and everything like that. And candidate access, right? Versus security. Now, if you want to have ultimate security, then you do, you do the Joe Biden 2020 basement campaign or more, right? If you want to have candidate security, you can have like the Pope Mobile, you can have the plexiglass, you can have, all this type of stuff. And then you can never shake a candidate's hand. You can't kiss the babies. You can't do all that type of stuff. So there's always a balance there, right? That's why there's a reliance on the advanced teams and the local law enforcement. They had military there and the Secret Service to sort of scout out an area and provide that protective net and stuff like that. So I think it's important to have reviews and all that. I'm not an expert. I didn't serve. I actually did a long time ago. One of the conventions did talk to the Secret Service people there, like, hey, maybe we should, but that was, I thought about a lot of things. I didn't do it and all that. And I'm not alleging anything, but, tough job. You got to be right, 100% of the time. You know what I mean? So it's a super tough job. I'm not trying to play Monday morning quarterback. And that's kind of what I'm railing against. Like, I don't think it's great to piggyback. Listen, I don't think it's great to piggyback this conversation into discussions of DEI and all that type of stuff, whatever like that. Now, I will also, there's an aside on that too, first in a second, but, and I think that it's not good. Some people you just do. I feel like I'm not alleging anything, but we don't do things for clicks and views. I mean, I'm not saying we never, ever. I mean, I'm not trying to put myself on a soapbox, but I just feel like, particularly with this kind of show, this kind of importance, you just got to be as solid. We need clarity and we need authenticity and we need to come together here and stuff like that. And part of coming together is like, you know what? Water under the bridge. Let's move forward. Okay. Now, couple asides. I'll bring Paul in here before the end of the break. Number one, obviously this is the major political candidate. Obviously it happened in a political rally. Obviously we have a campaign. There's just no way that there isn't political implications here, and it's not going to be used politically. And I'm not saying it shouldn't. That photo, that iconic photo is unbelievable. If I was a campaign, if I was running a campaign, I've run campaigns, I've consulted for high level campaigns. There's no way I wouldn't use that photo. That photo is getting used, dude. You're insane to not use that photo. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, Trump earned that photo. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with that. Just like they try to George Bush and 9/11, whatever. Hey, he went down there. He made the statement. I mean, that's the job, dude. That's part of the power of incumbency. You win or lose political capital based upon how you react in the moment as candidate, commander in chief, whatever, debate, all that. That's what it is. There's nothing. Because wait for that, because the Democrats are, they're going to be politically crying, if you will, on the DEI stuff and all that. I mean, again, I don't like that. I'm not going to name names. There's some big names too, but I mean, it's like I just, I make mistakes all the time. You know what I mean? So I don't like that discussion. Now, I will say, separate from this, if you look at the UCLA Medical School, with having big problems with exams and stuff like that, people have talked about, military, people talk about astronauts, people talk about, pilots. There's, I think, inclusivity, opportunity, equal opportunity, right? Myself, Jack Kemp, Tim Scott. I mean, we've fought our lives on these types of stuff is very important. And I think that takes time, but it's, you have to have merit-based systems. There's certain jobs there's certain jobs physically I can't do anymore. And I used to be a national champion. I just can't do it anymore, dude. There's certain jobs that you just have to be there. I mean, some people have commented like, okay, because of the size of Trump, I don't know, dude. I don't want to get into all these little things like that. But I do rail against I do have a problem with some of the like Insta conspiracy stuff and everything like that. Now, I think an appropriate review, and again, I'm not an expert, but I think there's a, tangential relationship there potentially, but there's really two different conversations here. I'm not making total sense of this, and I do apologize. I may have to pick this up again in the next half hour. Paul, your comments, I think you know where I'm trying to go with this.
Yeah, look, I think that let's take a look at whatever investigations reveal. Now, I know some people are suspect of some of the investigators. Okay, that's fine. But I tend to agree with you on this. I think that there is a lot of room for just mistakes to be made that are not part of a larger, broader.
I'm sorry, and I just want to say what I said before, which is when we were talking about this, hindsight's always 2020. Now it does seem to me like, okay, if you've got something direct line of sight and there's not that many buildings up there, but I don't know. I don't know the facts on the ground. I don't know what happened. I'm not an expert. Hindsight 2020. Anyway, go ahead, Paul. You got 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I just think that, again, this doesn't need to be any grand conspiracy. And unfortunately,
Right, exactly.
The way that internet culture is, people understand that talk about conspiracy type topics generates clicks. And so sometimes even when they don't really believe something necessarily, they'll talk about things like that because they know people will pay attention to it if they do. So yeah, I've been a little bit disappointed with some of that discussion as well.
Yeah, I just don't think that that's super helpful and stuff. And there's a lot of chatter out there, and I don't think that's. And listen, here's the thing: have the investigations, do them straight up, see where they lead. Perfect, fantastic. And some people say, hey, Speaker Johnson should have the hearings and everything like that. Fantastic, see where they lead. But you don't start out like, oh, well, this is, and then like some people like were saying like, oh, look at the reaction, and they didn't, dude. It seemed like they reacted really quick, dude. And I said that, on a different version of that on my thing. Thank the law enforcement like that. That's what I'm saying. We need coolness, level heads. We need to figure out. I'm going to talk about the next half hour. Where do we go from here? We have the Republican National Convention and everything like that. So we'll see if we can call my mom again. We'll see what happens there. John D. Villarreal Radio Show here on Newstalk 1040. Also live on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and later we will be reposted on X and LinkedIn. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
This is an SRN News special report. Presidential nominee Donald Trump chooses a running mate. I'm Keith Peters. That running mate is Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, a latecomer to the Trump campaign. Vance swept to national prominence with his best-selling memoir, Hillbilly
John D. Villarreal here at the John D. Villarreal Radio Show, Newstalk 1040 a.m. live on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and X for later. Well, later, not live. We're going to repost on X, repost on LinkedIn. And a lot going on. Daughter might be over here. Hopefully not. I mean, we love her for sure. Yeah, she's in the background. So I do apologize on that. She loves it. But we were talking about last segment here. It is July 15th, 5:35 p.m. Obviously, we had a crazy weekend. What I want to do. Oh, hold on one second. Paul, I'm going to double. Professor Jim Liu, are you there?
Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I think we may even have I'm doing fine. This is Professor Jim Liu of Johns Hopkins University. He is at the Carey Business School. He's one of the professors there. He's got a PhD in finance from Columbia University. Also an undergrad degree from University of Chicago. And it just has done some incredible work. Also as part of a company called SoCat that does a lot of AI and all kinds of other stuff. I wanted to talk to you about what was going on in the past. You made some comments over the weekend about your parents being immigrants, about how this country's done so much for you and everything, comments about Trump. There's also a huge Mike Bloomberg gift to the school. And I know a little bit about that. I'm not putting you on the spot, but maybe we can talk about the new Zim and the new building and everything going on with Hopkins as well. But I wanted to get your comments on this past weekend. And you're not an overly political person. And I think
I'm not.
Yeah, I know you're not.
No, I'm not.
I know you're not.
Me?
I know
Come
you
on.
do. I know.
I'm just happy to be in America. I'm just happy to be alive. That's how I roll. No, I mean, Michael Bloomberg was so generous. I think he gave like a tremendous donation to help. It was like $1 billion to help out to pay for medical school for those students, the med school students. I think if they're making less than $300,000 a year, something like that.
I think that's right.
But basically, it's like a full ride. So that's amazing. And I think it covers about 95% of the people who are applying to medical school, something like that. I don't know all the numbers, but that, Bloomberg has been such a, great sort of supporter of Johns Hopkins. So we really do appreciate
he really has
all that he does.
Almost more so than I know he's a Harvard MBA, but I mean, I think he's done more for Hopkins and stuff. And I don't know, but what I love about this gift is, as you said, this is truly, I think where a lot of gifts should go, particularly at the elite level. I mean, Hopkins was already number 2, number 1, number 3 in so many things in healthcare. And I think like 1/4 of all federal healthcare research funding goes through Hopkins. I mean, it's such a powerhouse. And I think that level of sort of research, heavy citations, evidence-based education kind of flows through the business school and the other schools with Hopkins as well. Hopkins just has a different approach, different than and then I'm not putting anyone else down, but Harvard on the MBA style has their case study and Stanford's got design thinking. There's different things, but I think Hopkins is very much influenced by that. And having an already elite university basically have free education for some of their top programs. And I think also the gift also extends to some degree, I don't know how, but to the Carey Business School, the Whiting School of Engineering, the advanced academic programs from the Krieger School. I mean, this has to make a huge impact on Hopkins, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for the medical school. It's great for the university. We're super excited about that, right? We miss you in the business school. Where have you been?
I'm ready. Sign me up. Tell Dean Trianis I'm ready to teach something. I'm ready to just be a helper in your classes. Your classes are always very well attended. Everybody loves them. I was a TA for Professor Liu there, and the entrepreneurial finance, which is basically sort of the VC class, if you will. Very well attended class. Everybody loves that class. I did my best to kind of bring my insights and Silicon Valley expertise, if you will, to that. Of course, full disclosure, Professor Liu and I were in business together in America's Venture Capital. That was a very successful conference pandemic that we did there. Well attended, lots of speakers. It was like almost 60, 70 speakers signed up of the 300 people there. Did really, really well. We definitely, this dude, you've literally been around the globe, certainly all over the US. You're always going to conferences. You're always doing stuff. Congratulations to your daughter that got into the University of Chicago. We love that. And tell me now with Hopkins. Okay. So I'm going to touch on, well, let me go back and then I'll go forward. Do you have any comments about, and if you don't, it's okay. But where were you and what did you think when you heard the news of this weekend? Just as a person, you don't need to get political. It doesn't matter who you're voting for, but just.
Look, that was surprising, right? And it was, kind of very shocking and saddening and a lot of mixed emotions, right? What I was thinking about when I saw that was, wow, our country is so divided and, what just happened? I mean, later we find out it's a young man who passed away, right? But it's just to try to understand why he would do that. It's very difficult. But, what I saw was also like this wonderful picture of Trump, right? He's just standing there and he's got his fist raised.
Iconic.
He's got like blood coming out of his ear and he's surrounded by the Secret Service that are protecting him. And there's this wonderful picture of him and the American flag behind him.
I'm putting up right
now.
And
I was like, wow, that is incredible. Yeah. What a great shot. And, people try to stage that stuff, but just like in real time, whoever took that picture, it was just amazing. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that is just, it's really going to help his, campaign. And so, after I saw that, I was like, oh, I think this guy's going to win. It's just so much strength, right?
Oh my gosh.
I just was thinking, what would it be like to be a political strategist and being able to have your candidate, with that? And I was like, wow, that's so amazing. I'm glad he survived. And then the next, President Biden came out and he said, they sort of tapered down all the political stuff and, told people to reduce the rhetoric. I think that's like very, very important in America. And, just because you don't agree with what other people
who cares?
Believe in. You're fine. Can't we all agree to that we're going to disagree on certain things, right? And that's kind of where I sit.
I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was curious to hear your thoughts. And,
Yeah. So, yeah.
Go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts first.
No. I was going to say a couple things. Dovetailing right at what you said. I appreciate that. I appreciate those comments. You saw I put that up on LinkedIn. I appreciate you liking that. I definitely wanted to have you on the show. I loved your comments too with your parents and everything like that. And I think, we're in sync there. The other thing I would say is, obviously I'm a pretty public person, right? I mean, I wouldn't say I'm famous, but I'm sort of have some level of public something, I guess. Here on Newstalk 1040, I appreciate, them having me on, but I would say I was obviously openly conservative, right? I've been for Republican, conservative, whatever, for a long time. And I remember years and years ago when I went to Berkeley Law School, I mean, I was on, KSFO, I was on KHTK, I was doing my thing. And I had my own paper called the Bold Standard. Because at that time, that was the name of the law school. They since changed the name. And so I was definitely out there. And let me tell you, I caught all kinds of heat. I mean, I would have, all kinds of different, things in my mailbox, little hate mail, threats, all kinds of stuff. And this is, decades ago. Okay. Now I will say, fast forward, going to Hopkins, I don't know that I was on anyone's Christmas list. Right. And I think that people, I wasn't like, and I think part of that was, my wife, obviously, my wife, and she's very smart. And I think I'm someone I'm not a kid anymore. I maybe didn't fit the typical MBA profile. I was also working at a time, but I have super high horsepower. And I think sometimes people get a little intimidated by that, sometimes but I think also the politics certainly didn't help that. Now, that being said, so I expect that with academia, especially elite academia, right? I think it's been sort of captured by the left, if you will, to a large degree. However, I felt like for the vast majority of it, I was treated pretty fairly at Hopkins, and I think that it really was more of an evidence-based deal. And I think that Hopkins is a great elite school where it's okay to be, conservative. It's okay to maybe have different views on some foreign policy situations going on right now. We don't need to get into specifics. I think that it's done pretty well on that. And then when some people kind of get over the line, and there's been some corrections. And am I reading that wrong? Even though Hopkins has a great, like the Say School, and obviously now in DC with the museum, am I right in that assessment? And if I am, where does that come from? Why is Hopkins maybe different than some of the other schools we've seen in the news that have maybe, less tolerant of conservatives and stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, is it a question of East Coast, West Coast versus the middle of the U.S., right? I mean, I think people have strong views either way as academics, some conservative, some liberal, and so forth, right? You're in the ivory tower, you're supposed to have views and you're supposed to test them out. And, I think people in the ivory tower and academics, they like us as looking at the results, right? And the evidence and so forth. And it is, the ivory tower is meant to have a lot of discourse and, very much disagree with each other. And I went to the University of Chicago, and there was a Nobel laureate, Eugene Fama, and, most of the people at Chicago were efficient market hypothesis sort of believers.
Yeah.
And he actively recruited, I think it was a Harvard professor, I don't remember, somebody from outside, sort of more on the behavioral finance side, just to bring that voice in so that whenever they had seminars, he could hear a different side of the story, right? And, to me, that's the true, academic sort of endeavor, where you bring people who disagree with you in. So you can just hear how they're thinking about things. And also, if you're trying to create, new knowledge and new research, you want that tension, right? And, so people sort of enjoy that type of stuff in the ivory tower. But, they know what they're signed up for, right? And, a lot of times people disagree with speakers at these academic seminars, and then they'll take them out for dinner or whatever. And, they get along a lot because
exactly.
they maybe have the similar, kids in the same age playing the same sports or whatever it may be.
We're all people.
But, we're just people just trying to survive, and, we have families and so forth. But, but I think that's kind of unique to the ivory tower, right? I mean, I think a lot of times maybe around the DC area, it just gets too heated up when, you're at one party or the other party. And I don't know, some way along the way, it became very emotional, and, some people just don't want to talk to each other.
It's crazy. I've been saying for a long time,
right?
And that we got to end the hyper partisanship. I mean, you know me obviously personally and stuff like that. Like, obviously I've got very established views, if you will. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but I mean, like, I'm very open with how I see things, but I'm also very evidence-based. If you can show me why this makes sense and stuff like that, like, I'll give you a quick, for instance, Jim Pinkerton, I interviewed him years ago in DC. And this was before Obamacare. And I'm like, I'm not for socialized medicine, whatever like that. And he's like, well, you should have a certain level like other countries do. Like my wife's country, in Israel over there, there's a certain level of healthcare that people get. Same thing with other systems. And you should have a basic level that's covers everybody. And then you can have some other stuff in the private system. And I'm like, and I didn't necessarily change my mind, but I'm like, because I didn't do enough research on it afterwards, to be honest with you. I mean, because I've just got too big, but I'm like, well, let me look at that. Let me think about that, and that's what I'm saying. Like just being open-minded to what makes the most sense. At the end of the day, we all just want good government. Everybody, I think, if you just take the party labels off, everybody wants to have like a happy life, a good family. If you have kids, you want the best for your kids. You want to be able to make money. You want to be able to have as much personal freedom as possible, whatever that means for you. But we also have to live in a society and stuff. And like, hey, we don't want anyone to, fall on hard times. And, there's these balance of considerations. I don't think any of it's really rocket science. It gets more tricky in the implementation of it. But what I like to say, like I've told, my brother Paul for the longest time, like, when he went from a Democrat to starting to listen to me and listening to Limbaugh and becoming a conservative, and this was like he was a Hillary supporter, and then I don't want to characterize him; he can speak for himself. But they would come up with this stuff. I'm like, listen, you don't need conspiracies, but I mean, However, people that like power and money, they're on that 24/7 usually. Okay. So you don't need a conspiracy. Like, I mean, if you have $1 billion, you might want 1.5, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that's not a hard stretch there. And so, people
Wait, John, I gotta ask you something.
talk to me
before we get too far away.
Okay.
Vice President.
Yeah. I love it.
Trump picked, who's this?
JD
person?
Vance. JD Vance is awesome. JD Vance. JD Vance. JD Vance
is that a good pick? Come on.
It's a great pick. It's a great pick. It's a great pick. And I do want to,
why? Tell me why.
A couple reasons. I talked about it before. Like I thought of everybody that was no, you're good. You're good. I thought I know you're busy. Everybody that was left is I thought that it was either going to be JD Vance. Well, I thought the best of everyone that was left. I thought that the best, although he already disqualified. I think I heard Ramaswamy was out of it. But of anyone that was talked about in the VP selection this entire way, I thought JD Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy were the best. Why? Either one of those gives you tremendous verbal ability, right, to go on any show and deal with any host. And you're not going to be, you're going to have a level of ability that can handle anyone from Stefan. Doesn't matter. They could handle any interview from anybody. Okay. Number one. Number two, obviously elite education, both Yale Law. Number three, youth energy, that type of stuff. And number four, most importantly, actually really should be number one. And as I said before, it's kind of impeachment insurance. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people I think the insiders were okay removing Trump and then getting Mike Pence because Mike Pence was an insider, you know what I mean, in my opinion. So now you've got Vivek Ramaswamy. They don't want to go from Trump to Vivek Ramaswamy. They don't want to go from Trump to JD Vance. I mean, McConnell and some of these other people really don't like, a lot of inside Washington doesn't like JD Vance. Reportedly, Rupert Murdoch wanted anybody but Vance. Of News Corp and stuff like that. And to me, that's a good sign, right? I mean, this is the point. It's not about, this is my point globally, right? It's not about left, right, this and that, whatever. There's some of that, of course. But this is really about, if people decide that they're going to elect Trump, they need to get Trump. Okay. And however that plays out, as David Sachs has said, and you've seen, like, I mean, again, you've been following myself, not to pat myself on the back, but I've been way ahead of the game on a lot of these things. I've gone out there on a limb, and my stuff has turned out to be very, very prescient on the political. I'm literally a political expert. Like I've been involved for a long, long time, run campaigns and advised, U.S. Senate campaigns, both coats, and et cetera. And so when you had it, what David Sachs said, and he quoted someone else in France. And again, I don't know enough about the French stuff. There's no endorsement. There's no anything here. I know there's a lot of different parties. They have different political spectrum type of, but different political parties over there. And however, the people voted for Marine Le Pen, okay, or her party, the RN party, whatever it is. And as the quote said, it was on X, it was something like, yeah, the French went to the ballot box to vote for national sovereignty and stricter borders or something like that. And what they got is communism. And see, that's not right, because you can't have an entrenched professional elite that basically thwart the will of the people over any length of period. Now, we don't want direct democracy where it's like, hey, popular vote now, like one of these game shows, and everyone votes that we're gonna take Professor Lou's house. Well, okay, that we don't want that. That's why we have a constitutional republic. But you can't have it where it's like, this is an insider club. This is a fraternity, if you will, or sorority, whatever it is, whoever. This is, and if you're not part of the elite, you're on the outside, and it's Hunger Games or something crazy like that. Like you have to, if the government is not functioning to reflect the will of the people over a long period of time and delivering for them policies and results that are beneficial for them, then how legitimate is that government? Right? I mean, and so that's the issue. So you need someone in that number 2 spot that maybe can deliver your state. And JD Vance is a senator from Ohio, so he's right next to Pennsylvania. So that can, if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he's going to win the whole thing. He's a sitting senator. So and Ramaswamy's not. And, I think he's more comfortable in that number 2 role. I think Vivek just wants to be that number 1 role. You know what I mean? I think Vivek is fantastic. I love them both. I mean, I think they're both going to be great, but I think Vance is maybe a little bit better there. And I think Vance has specifically in Hillbilly Elegy, his best-selling book and stuff like that, has spoken to the forgotten person out there. And really what I think we need some heavy-duty antitrust. You know what I mean? And I know that scares a lot of corporate, but I mean, I think what we have to do is get the magic of some people are talking about this in AI, and we can have you need to come on again. We can have a longer conversation, obviously, on this, on the AI thing. Because I was listening to the All In podcast. I was listening to the research in NVIDIA, and I love NVIDIA from video games and stuff like that. But I think that everyone's like, they try to follow the hot memes of, in startup land, like, hey, we're blockchain. Oh, hey, no, we're crypto. Hey, no, we're metaverse. And hey, no, we're AI. The problem of it is that I'm bullish on AI, but I'm long-term bullish on AI. I think that it can do certain things now. I think it's going to really affect the job market. I think it's going to eviscerate a lot of jobs and make people more efficient. However, the investments are so massive and so insane that only some of the big companies are going to win. What we have to do is get the environment where it can be creative again and not where it's just big companies and nobody else. And that's the thing. And when you have the big companies and nobody else, that's when you get all the other knockoff bad effects too, of hiring processes that are too long. If a bunch of the big companies, deplatform you have nowhere to go. If they enforce the advertising dollars, we have to have competitive markets, is what I'm saying. If we want to have what makes America great, you have, and this is my talking about Chicago, right? This is my law and economics training. You have to get competitive markets. You have to, the closer you get to perfect competition and stuff like that, and perfect information, perfect competition, all these things, then that's the best, that's the most effective way. So I think that we have to get back to that. Now, certain things just you need a certain level of scale and size with like telecom and things like that. I understand that, but there's other things that you can really break up a lot of these things. And I think you would solve a lot of problems if you did that. So, and I think that we've been asleep at the switch on the antitrust situation for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my take on it.
What's your thoughts on there's a Bitcoin conference coming up next, I think next week. I think Trump's is supposed to be one of the keynotes there.
Yeah. No,
are you going to go to that?
I guess, me, I don't go anywhere. I need to go. So I need to go a lot more places. I really should. Well, I'm babysitter in chief in the house right now because my wife got a medical residency. Oh my God.
Oh, good for her. Good for her. Congratulations.
Oh, I will. My goodness. So she's doing little TY, little transitional years. So we'll see what the final placement is next year. But she's in there. She's doing great. She's working hard. She's doing the ICU shift. She's like literally, 12, 14-hour shifts, 6 days a week. Yeah. So I have to take care of Janair and stuff like that. So if I go anywhere, Janair's coming with. And convincing my wife of letting me do that is maybe not so easy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I would say, to answer your question, look, alternative. I never thought that the Federal Reserves or any of these. This is my biggest problem with all of this. We talked about this face to face. I never thought that any of the governments were going to let alternative currencies be a thing. Now, that being said, decentralized, the technology and decentralized, there's a case for it, right? There's big cases for it. I think it's interesting. Now, Bitcoin is the one that's kind of quasi, like even Wall Street's jumping on. I think in a lot of ways it's to be determined. Trump being there he's definitely a market-based guy. And there's obviously critiques of central banks and stuff like that. So, who knows? You know what I mean? Like we were on the gold standard until we weren't, right? I mean, and you're more of an expert on that stuff than I am. Obviously, I've studied and I love to learn more about it. I did do an awesome course that was kind of a joint Berkeley, Stanford, and King's College and Illinois Urbana course on DeFi. That was awesome. And I just think there's a lot there. Listen, I am short-term bearish on tech and startups and all and VC stuff, but I am obviously always long-term bullish. Anytime you think it's over, I've been through a bunch of tech crashes, it comes back bigger than ever. I think there's so much out there with DeFi.
Short-term bearish?
Short-term.
Why do you say that?
Short-term.
Why?
We're out of time. We're out of time. I'll call you back. We'll have you on again. Jim, thank you so much. You were the best. Professor Lou of Johns Hopkins.
Thanks, sir.
You bet.
Good talking to you. Bye, buddy.
Yep. This is the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM. Unbelievable show. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Also was live on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and we'll repost later. Have a great week. Unbelievable RNC convention tonight. Love it. Love America. Appreciate you. Stay blessed.
Your home for news, talk, and information. 1040 WHBO Pinellas Park. Tampa Bay's all new News Talk 1040.